Chief Bogo huffed, his tail flicking irritably as he surveyed the bustling city of Zootopia. Snowflakes fluttered from the sky, blanketing the streets in a thick drift, just like they did every year. To most of the residents, the winter season meant cheerful festival, these cozy gatherings, and even the joy of the holidays. But to Bogo, it simply meant more work, more reports, more complaints, and more chaos as the Pale City's polar bear guards struggled to keep the snowdrifts under control. He was a proud lion, was a proud buffalo, respected throughout Zootopia for his strength and determination. With his deep fur and powerful build, he was a natural leader. As chief of the ZPD, he commanded the city's law enforcers with an ironclad discipline, but his strict nature often led to misunderstandings. Many thought him cold and unfeeling, though in truth, he only wanted what's best for the citizens under his charge. Still, there was one thing he despised more than snowfall or the holiday festivals: the unpredictable emotions. The streets outside his office bustled with holiday cheers as families and friends exchanged gifts and laughter. But Chief Bogo remained unmoved. To him, the emotions were a liability, and the excitement of the holiday only brought him more distractions. He preferred the quiet efficiency of his daily routine, where order resigned and there was no room for simultaneity. That is it. Until a large shadow flickered in his office, and a voice whispered, "Chief Bogo, I have come for you." Long before Bogo became respected as chief of ZPD, he was just a young buffalo in the Pride Lands, learning the ways of leadership of Zootopia. He was strong, proud, and expected to follow in his footsteps of his ancestors, great warriors and rulers who command with strength and wisdom. But despite his size and power, Bogo had always been afraid, not of fighting or responsibility, but of failure. While the other calves played and roamed freely, Bogo spent his time training, determined to prove that he was worthy of his title. But no matter how hard he tried, he always felt like he wasn't measuring up. The elders would nod in approval, but he could sense the unspoken doubt in their eyes. He wanted to be more than just a strong buffalo. He wanted to be a leader who could protect what mattered. That dream led him to Zootopia later on, where he hoped to forge his own path rather than follow tradition. The city had been a challenge. Coming of the place where strength was only the measure of worth, Bogo had struggled to adapt to the ZPD's emphasis and on teamwork and understanding. He found it frustrating why they had taken it in him if they all knew he wouldn't fit in. But the more time he spent training, the more he realized that the strength alone wasn't good enough. And it was his determination, his willingness to learn, and that made the difference. Now as Chief Bogo, he had tried to be firm because he had seen how easily a leader could always be swayed by emotions. He wanted to ensure that Zootopia was safe, that no one was taken in by weakness. But as he sat in his cold, quiet office, a strange memory tugged at him, an echo of a little calf who had once feared failing to make a real difference. A shimmer of light coiled in the air, pulsating starlight, and suddenly a new figure stood beside Bogo. He wasn't a lion, he wasn't even Cop. He was a small, round penguin with wide, glistening eyes and a smile that stretched too far across his face. "Chief Bogo," the penguin said, bowing in a flourish, "I am the first visitors here to remind you of what you were before the ice settled in your heart." Bogo's tail flickered in irritation. "This is nonsense. I have no time for riddles and shadows." The penguin, undulated, waddled a few paces before turning back. "You once had a heart beat more than just the authority. You once used to become more than a leader. You wanted to be a friend, a guide, a mentor." Bogo scowled. "I was never soft." "Perhaps not in body," the penguin mused, "but in action you showed concern. You once saw something in others and trusted them to rise above. Bogo's grip in his paws tightened. There was a flicker of something inside him, something warm that buried deep under the years of discipline and duty. He was almost wanted to believe it. Almost. The penguin gave a knowing nod before gesturing towards the past. Let's see. The office faded, and Bogo found himself in the ZDPD headquarters again. This time it was years ago, before the ice had taken hold. He was a younger version of himself standing beside his junior officer, kind but eager Gazelle. The Bogo of the past was stern, but now he could see the hints and care in his voice as he guided the young Gazelle through their work. Bogo now blinked. There it was, just like the ghost said. For the first time that night, Bogo felt a crack in the ice around his heart. As the light around Bogo shimmered, the office vanished, and he found himself in a new place, yet familiar yet distant. He blinked, expecting the familiar walls of ZDPD headquarters, but instead he stood in a training hall with the scent of hard work and determination thick in the air. Rows of eager candidates bustled about, some stretching, others practicing tactics with mock weapons. A younger Bogo stood at the front of the room, with his voice firm but encouraging as he guided the officers in the future. And then a voice, familiar in light of hope, called out. Bogo turned, and she was Clarice Claus. The otter had always been full of energy, her optimism contagious even though when others doubted her. She had been one of the first in her classes to believe that small, fast animal would make a difference in law enforcement, and Bogo had been her instructor. He had seen her potential, and when the others had tried to write her off. Chief, Clarice's younger self looked up at him with wide eyes. I know I am only a little otter, but I want to see the best cop Zootopia has ever had. Can I still do it? Bogo's chest tightened. It had been one of the hardest days of his career. When she asked him if he truly believed in her, he had hesitated, afraid if he had not encouraged her too much, she might fall short, and if she failed, would it become like the others who had written her off? The older Bogo looked at his younger self, watching him hesitate before finally giving in a slow nod. A warmth spread through Bogo's chest. He had believed in her. He had stood by her. But now his hardened stance, where has that belief gone? Clarice's younger voice echoed in his ears. If I work hard, I can do anything. Had Bogo once believed in those words? And had he forgotten them? A deep huff from his younger self brought to the realization closer. He had been raised to be firm, to be unyielding, to never show weakness. But in doing so, he had become the leader who crushed the dreams of others. The memory faded, and Bogo stood silent. For the first time he felt the weight of his choices, not just the leader of Zootopia, but as the one who had once hoped to make a difference. The light flickered again. Suddenly the world around Bogo shifted. The warm glow of the training hall was gone, replaced by the cold, sterile walls of ZPD headquarters. But something was off. The place was eerie quiet. No bustle of officers, no chatter of excitement near the holidays, only heavy silence, as if something vital had been stripped from the building. Bogo stepped forward, and there in his office sat a version of himself, but older, wearier, and colder. His voice, once commanding presence, had faded to a mere shadow of the leader he had been. His fur was grayer, his eyes more distant, and he looked at the city beyond his window with barely concealed disdain. Then another figure entered the room, Duke Weaselton. The short-furred weasel was grinning, a devious smile curling up on his lips. Well, well, Chief Bogo, he purred, still as cold as ever. Bogo's younger self turned, his expression unreadable. Get out, Weaselton. Oh, come on now, Weaselton chuckled. You know the truth. You don't want to be here. You don't care about the ones who look up to you. You don't even care if the city falls apart. Bogo stiffened. It was the cruelest bit of it all. And Weaselton mentioned towards the street outside. Bogo turned and his heart clenched at what he saw. There were no Christmas lights, no banners, no festive cheer, only tired officers slumped against the walls, eyes hollow and unmotive. The people of Zootopia had stopped to look up to him. He spotted a younger version of himself in Deputy, the gazelle he had once guided through training. He had just looked like Clary's claws had in the memory, but now there was no light in his eye. He sat in the back of the room, barely speaking, looking at the ground as if ashamed to even be there. Bogo's breath caught. Had that been their future? His real refusal to care, to believe, to guide, to turn everyone away? Wesselton tilted his head. You see what happens when you forget what makes you real, Chief. Bogo swallowed hard. For the first time, he truly didn't know if he could handle what the ghost revealed. Bogo stood frozen, his breath caught in his throat. The vision of his future weighed heavily on him. His officers disengaged, and the city's joy extinguished, and the gazelle who once looked up to him now defeated. It was a future he had never wanted, yet it was the one he had been moving towards with every cold decision, every moment of indifference. He turned back to the phantom of Duke Wesselton. Is this truly what it will become do if I don't change? Wesselton tilted his head, the same sadistic grin on his face. No one forces you to stay the path you're on, Chief Bogo, and yet you keep walking forward like you don't have a choice. Bogo clenched his hooves. I thought I was doing what's best. I thought if I was strict, if I didn't let any emotions interfere, the city would be safer. You built a wall so high, Wesselton whispered, that you forgot what was behind it. Behind it was the gazelle, the young bull who once believed in justice, the other who had trusted him when no one else would. Bogo closed his eyes as the memories were rushing back of encouragement given, of lessons he had taught to teach, a future that he was more than just a leader. He was a mentor, a friend. The snow outside drifted gently, and for the first time, Bogo felt the weight of it not just as annoyance, but as a symbol of change. The ice around his heart had cracked, and something warm had begun to seep through. He had spent so long believing that being strong meant unfeeling, but now he saw the truth. Strength came from understanding, from belief, from care. When he opened his eyes, he was back in his office, the ghost long gone. The world outside was still quiet, but something within Bogo shifted. A deep sigh escaped him, not one of irritation, but of relief. He had a choice, and he was ready to make it. Chief Bogo stepped out of his office, his heart lighter than it had been in years. The once cold, distant Buffalo had been replaced by a leader who wanted to lead kindness instead of frowning at the snow. He smiled at the joy it brought to the city. He joined his officers by the city center, watching the lanterns glow and the children laugh under the winter sky. For the first time, he just wasn't a chief. He was a friend, a mentor, and a buffalo who had learned the true meaning of courage.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.